This is Chris here from Never Enough Fishing. I wanted to show you how to tie some knots. There are three main knots that I use. The Clinch Knot, and I have my own version of it, and I have the World's Fair knot that I use for terminal tackle, and then I tie the Polymer Knot, which is a very popular knot. A lot of people tie it. It's very tight. But what I wanted to do, because I can pull off two of these knots at one time, is if I tie a Carolina rig with a worm on it. I don't have the worm here, but I'm going to show you how I would tie it. So imagine if this side of my line is coming off my fishing pole, and what I would do is I would just cut my line. I'm going to leave some slack. I would cut my line, and I have a bead here to protect my, these pliers are not very sharp. Should have got my snips. But I take my line here, and hopefully you can see it. I take my line and I pass it through a sinker. Get that out of the way, and then I would add a bead to protect the swivel, the barrel swivel. Then I have a barrel swivel here, and I'm going to tie a World's Fair knot. There's not but one way, but a lot of people will fold over their line and pass it through, but I have bad eyesight, and sometimes it's easier to just skip that. I usually slide it straight through like this, and then I just hold it in place, and I come back and slide it back through the other way. So now it's the same thing, I just did it differently. But that's the way you start. And then you take this loop and you want to pass it, you want to have enough slack so you can pass it back over on top of these two pieces of line here. And you just take the tail and you go back under that loop. See, there's the loop. And this is the line I started with. But here's the tail, and you just take the tail and go back through that hoop you made and pull it tight. And that's how you would do the World's Fair knot. It looks loose, but it's not, especially if you add a little spit to it, and then you can trim off the excess. So I'll try to get it close to the camera so you can kind of see it. Again, it always looks loose, but it's not. It's just that's just the way it looks. Now some people will also, let me trim this off, and I'll start again and do it again. Actually, I've got to do the other side, so I'll just do it with the other side. I'm going to trim this and make it a little cleaner with my dull pliers. Some people will also, and I oftentimes do this, let me get my slack. When they put it through here, let's see, we go through. Again, a lot of people will just bend this over to start with and squeeze it through like this. Either way works, as long as it goes in and back out. But I'm never good at doing it this way, especially with a barrel swivel, because it just spins. I always go in and back out. So you achieve the same purpose. This is just faster for me. And then you take this piece, you make it kind of a loop over this, and then you can put your tail back through that piece that you looped over. Now, a lot of people, and a lot of times I do this, I'll go back through, see that piece of tail right here on my finger? Go back through yourself again. This is hard to see, I know. But you go back through that tail again and pull it tight, and it's even tighter. It's kind of a hard knot to tie. It doesn't take but a second. It's kind of hard, but it's sometimes the only way to tie something on. Like, see, especially in this case, see, this is much tighter than this side, but it's the same deal. It's just this is a step further to make it extra tight. And I'll probably do that most of the time. But doing it this way is a little tighter. You trim off your excess. But see, a lot of knots require you to go, especially like the polymer, requires you to go around this in the end, and I can't go around this. I have to go around my whole rod. All right, so I'm going to finish this. So this is basically a leader now. So now I've got my weight. When I throw my line, my weight will carry my line out. It'll fall into the water, and I'll have protection from my barrel swivel, and then I'll have a leader that goes to my hook with my worm on it. And so when I pull the line, it'll pull my weight a little bit, and the worm will just slowly fall. My weight will fall fast. My worm will just slowly fall down to wherever it's going to land at. So I'm going to trim off a piece here and show you the clinch knot. There's two versions of the clinch knot. There's the original clinch knot, and then there's what's called an improved clinch knot. I don't know that I ever knew how to tie the original clinch knot. I just know the improved. But I'm going to do the improved plus a little. I've always wondered how tight or how strong my line was when a big bass or something hits my hook. And I've always thought this needs more protection. So my version of the clinch knot, you just push it through the hook. But I go back, and the improved clinch knot, you don't do this step. But my version, you pull out some extra, and then you put it back through the hook again. So you have a loop. So I went through, and I went through the same hole again. Now I have a loop. It's going through there twice. And I'm going to save that loop. I'm gonna put it, I'm gonna like make it stay there. See, I didn't pull it all the way tight. I made it stay there. I'm gonna hold my hand on the eye of the hook to keep it from pulling that loop out. And then I just basically take 6 or 7, I like to do 7 laps around, that's 1, 2, around my original line. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, now I've got my tail here. It's been wrapped around that line 7 times. Now, what I'm going to do is, this is the tricky part, but I'm going to stick it through the 2 loops, basically. I'm going to stick it through this loop that I've got held out here, and I'm going to stick it through this loop where my line is separated from when it went through the eye of the hook. So I'm going to go through basically right here. If I do it this way, it's going to go through both of them. So I'm going through this one, and I'm going to go through this one. All right, and then you're going to put it back through the tail piece here. See this hole I've made, this loop I've made for my tail? I'm going to put it back through there. and I'm going to pull all this tight. Now you got to be careful when you pull it tight. You basically have to put your thumb here and your index finger and hold it as you pull it to make it pretty, or it will get knotted up before it even gets to the eye of the hook. I'm putting it in my mouth to pull the tail. But basically when you get done, you've got the clinch knot. It's just super powered because it went through that eye twice. And it's going back through both of those. See, I've got to play with it to get it down there and all pretty. When you get done, you will see see if I can get this up close to the camera. Looks just like a clinch knot, except it went through the eye of the hook twice. That's how I tie my hooks for worms. And that is strong and it won't go anywhere. And it's like double protected around that hook eye. So there's my Carolina rig. Now this, normally I make it a little longer, but just for purposes today, I'm not gonna make it super long. All right, I'm just gonna cut this off here and use the original line. I've got it tied to something so it'll be tight, like it's coming from the end of a fishing pole. All right, so I'm gonna use this lure here to demonstrate the Polymer knot. Polymer knot is easy to tie. It's the strongest knot. If your line breaks, it's because the fish is too big. This knot is great for tying almost anything. It won't work with that terminal knot because the World's Fair knot uses, because it's, you got to go back around something. So, but it's the same process as the World's Fair knot where you bend it over and you put it through. But again, I don't do that. I go through, and this has a funny looking eye on it, but you put it through and you go back through. It's the way I do it. So I'm going to go back through and pull a lot out. You got to pull a decent amount out. So now I have this. And now I'm going to tie this like I'm going to tie my shoe. I'm going to make that tie around there. So now I have half of a knot, but I'm not going to pull it tight yet. I'm going to take this loop right here and I'm going to go around my lure. So each, if you see there, each, got a hook in my hand, each side of this will go around just like I'm going around it. So I'm going to go around, be careful not to get it stuck in the hook. I'm going to go around this whole lure. And then I'm just going to pull the original thing tight, keeping everything together. I've got it hooked around the hook, and that happens all the time, but just pull it tight. And that's your Polymer knot. It's that easy. It's super easy. I started to get some actual rope to tie this so you could see it better, but there it is with the fishing line. I'm going to do it one more time so you can see it. This is a very popular knot, and I tie, some people tie every single thing they tie with that knot. I don't tie everything with it. I usually use one of these 3 knots. So I can show you again. So one more time, the Polymer knot. And you can do this with anything. You can do it with this hook. And sometimes I do, but I usually tie it the other way. But you just stick it in, stick it back out, and if you want to do it the other way I showed, oops, out of camera view, Take it back through, pull some slack. I usually pull a lot of slack. And then you just take this and you make both ends, both sides, like you're starting to tie your knot. Pull this, and then you got this loop, and you tie this, you put this around the whole thing. Oops. Put it around the whole thing. Sorry, I keep getting out of camera view. I'm zoomed in so you can see the line a little better. But and then you just pull it tight. Just pull the whole thing tight. And there it is. That's the Polymer knot. And go trim off your tail. I usually trim down to about 1 centimeter, maybe a little less, but well, 1/2 centimeter, I guess. That's a little long there. Maybe even less than that. Doesn't really matter as long as there's some tail sticking out. But there you go. It's super tight. It's not going to fail. The only time this is going to fail, this knot will not come untied. The only time it's going to fail is if your line breaks or your lure breaks. But there it is. That was the World's Fair knot that you use on your terminal tackle, or I use on my terminal tackle. And then the Clinch knot, the improved Clinch knot with a twist, I guess you could call it. And then the Polymer knot. So I hope you enjoy. Please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. Let me know your favorite knots, what you tie, or if you tie these knots or other knots, or if you tie them differently. Leave me a comment and tell me how you do it. I'd love to get a thread going and we can learn from each other.